Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney for your match review of the 1-1 draw against Young Boys in the Champions League. Match day 6, I think before the game, I was sort of kind of excited, obviously, to see the team news and thought that early goal by Mason Greenwood would type of sort of open up the floodgates and we'll see a very exciting performance. I think it did peter out into what many of us feared and many of us sort of predicted that always potentially does happen on a match day 6 when one team is already through. But I've got George with us from the Man United Supporters Club here. And I was just going to touch on goalkeepers. We were just touching on air in terms of who made the debuts, and we're talking about the young players coming on. But obviously Tom Heaton made a debut. And we'll start on there. We'll get over and done with. It was very good to see Tom Heaton come on the field. But what did you make of that sub? Because Ralph Rangnick has sort of come out and spoken about, well, he didn't know that Tom Heaton hadn't made his debut yet. He was at the club earlier and he's been back, and he was under the impression that he played games for Man United. When he heard that he was still yet to make his debut, he said, well, if the time comes and the game's sort of petering out kind of thing, I'll throw him on the field. So just your thoughts on that, because it's a weird one, because it kind of took away another – look, at the end of the day, it was his debut as well, but it almost took away a sub which prevented another player coming on. Just your thoughts. It was a nice sentiment, but just it was a weird one. I just did not expect it.
Personally, in a way, once I saw you and Larry talking about it I think it was on Tuesday's preview for this game, and you were saying that Tom Heaton may get a chance because Henderson's future may be away from United. But in saying that, yes, it is a nice gesture from Rangnick. But at the end of the day, there are only 5 subs, or I say only, but 5. There are 5 subs. Someone's going to miss out on a debut, and I'm glad to see Heaton get it. He's been whether he's played for the club or not, he's been a very good servant, and I'm glad to see him rewarded with that, and did all right when he came on.
Yeah, no, you have to be proud. We're sort of so excited and so sort of proud of these young players who come on, which we'll touch on at the end. But at the end of the day, it's his debut for Manchester United, the club he loves, so it's obviously a very proud moment for him as well. Just some guys in the comments, good to see a few in here. Justin from the Supporters Club, hope you're well, mate. Good to see you. Rob as well from It's a Football Thing. He'll be live in about an hour or 8:30 tonight. Rob, feel free to leave a link to that video in the chat. Obviously, a good week on It's a Football Thing when Chelsea and Arsenal both lose and United progress. Morning, Jamie, or evening here from one of our fellow listeners in Northern Ireland. Hope you're keeping well. Favourite kit, the 98-99 kit. Thank you to good mate Michael who sorted this. And obviously, Mike, evening, mate. Hope you are keeping well. So remember, if you are new, please leave a subscribe. That would be great. And then please leave a like on the video. But make sure you get all your comments in, because I'm sure when we get to 3, 2, 1s for this one, George, it'll be very interesting viewing, where I'm definitely going to need help. So make sure everyone is getting your comments in before the 3, 2, 1s, but I'll tell you when we're getting up to those. But team selection, George, we always start on the team selection, and it was a weird one because before the game, we were thinking, okay, it's going to go one or two ways. He's going to shock everyone and be sort of a very strong team and play all the big guns and sort of get familiar with the players, or we thought there could be 11 changes, and if those 11 changes did occur, many of us did come very close to predicting, okay, maybe not the whereabouts on the pitch, but in terms of the personnel, I know you got 10 out of 11 picks. I think Larry might have got 9 or 10. I think I got 9. So I think a lot of us did pick the personnel, but I don't think anyone had Nemanja Matic at centre-back or Juan Mata playing in number 6. So just your thoughts on that team selection, and an hour before kickoff, what were your thoughts?
I was glad to see a heavily rotated team, to be honest, if there was any game where it could have happened, because it had to be now because we were knocked out of the League Cup quite early. I don't think we could see a team like this until potentially the 3rd round of the FA Cup, where since we've last gone to air, it's been announced that it's going to be Villa that's our opposition in that game. So looking forward to getting one up on Gerrard. But saying
don't
that,
remind me of Gerrard. Yeah, I think they got Liverpool this week, don't they? I think they're
they do.
Liverpool.
Yeah, they do.
That'll be interesting viewing. But
I was happy to see a heavily rotated side, and a chance for these players to impress Rangnick, because after all, Rangnick's only been at the club for 1 week. So if he wants to gauge an idea of where each player is at, who can I work with, who do I not want there, who needs to go on loan, he needs to have seen these players in a matchday environment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. However, do you think, and yes, getting these players minutes, and I think that was the main thing, especially, which we'll touch on Juan Mata's performance a little bit later, but okay, Nemanja Matic at centre-back, do you agree with that, just getting someone on there for minutes, or do you think there was a little bit of sort of shoehorning people in there where it could have been a far better sort of balanced side with players in their preferred positions?
I do think Matic did all right at centre-back, but with regards to shoehorning players, that potentially may have been the case. But in saying that, I do think if there were two fit centre backs. I don't think we would have seen Matic deployed as a centre back. I think he was a bit hesitant to play Mengi from the start, and as we saw when Mengi came on, it wasn't at centre back; it was at left back. So otherwise, I don't see any problem with his team selection.
Yeah, no problem with me. It was just a weird one. Maybe not the personnel, but yeah, the lineup, and I was quite excited to see. And I thought the first half an hour was quite sort of exciting football, and I thought it was a good continuation of the Crystal Palace match. Maybe not as exciting, but was on the front foot. I thought the intent was there, but I think a lot of it came down to, which we'll touch on, individual performance. A lot of the disjointedness came from a lack of match fitness and lack of familiarity, sort of just comes with game time. But a few comments here, Ian. Hope you're keeping well, mate. Good to see you in the chat. Rob saying, we're so happy with the lineup and bench, all big players rested for the weekend, which is, at the end of the day, the main thing. Regardless, it was a good performance. Did this player get minutes? I think the main thing is Ronaldo or Bruno, all these players, whatever you think of McTominay and Fred, they're our main two in midfield. They got a rest, etc. Very important. Ian also saying, good to see the young lads, which we'll definitely touch on at the end. Jamie, if Ollie was still in charge, would probably only have rotated 2 or 3 players. Glad most have got a rest coming up to the busy period. Yeah, not only the Norwich game this weekend, but obviously the weeks and months ahead. You do need to do sort of plan into the future. But yeah, it would have been interesting. I think if Solskjaer put out that team selection, George, I don't think he would have rotated as heavily. But even if he did have put out that team selection, could you imagine the criticism? We're all here saying, oh, that's interesting. He put Matter in the 6 or Matic at centre back. If Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did that, he would have been absolutely crucified. So it's interesting how we do sort of view it. But just a point here from Justin. Lingard looked like a player who knew he was out on the way in January, and a few people have made that point. Well, we'll get into individual performances, but I haven't made a note of Lingard, but we might as well touch on him now. I did get that feel, and it's not he tries hard. I'm not saying he's sort of down tools or anything, but just the perception I had, yeah, he was thinking, okay, yeah, I'll play, but my heart's not 100% in it.
Personally, I've had that feel about him since he scored that West Ham winner. Since then, I don't believe. Not that as you said, not that he hasn't tried. I just feel like his mind's somewhere else, and I feel like once his contract situation is sorted, whether it be with United or with another club, I do feel as though that'll give him some freedom. Because one of those things now where he's approaching 29, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Any injury could hamper potentially with the caliber of club that he's able to go to, and depending on that club, what his aspirations for the World Cup in a year's time.
Yeah, the World Cup, we always forget about that because it's obviously coming at a weird time. We always expect it to be at the end of the season, but it does throw an interesting dynamic, and not only just for the natural transfer window, how it unfolds, but in terms of how players sort of how they we'll restart later. How they plan their seasons in terms of, well, can I get another 6 months out of this club? Then I can stay at this club for another 6 months before I get my move because there'll be that big break during the mid-season. So it'll be an interesting dynamic. But just a point here before we move on to another performance. But Mike's saying, interesting to hear Ralph saying Greenwood needs to develop more as an athlete. Good to see him being pushed to develop. I think that's not a concern we have with Greenwood, but Larry and I have made this point, and I think a lot of people make this point. You do look at Mason Greenwood; he has it all, fantastic, but he still looks like a kid. I think he has bulked up a little bit now, which will come with natural progression in terms of his age. But yeah, he still looks like, especially when he's a lone striker or when he's playing up front, he does look like a young kid playing up front. Sometimes against, obviously, young boys have quite a big team. From the players that I saw, they're quite physical, so he does need to do that. But that'll come. I remember we made the point with Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not saying he's going to be Ronaldo 2.0. But when Ronaldo first came to the club, same age, had the exact same issues. It was very thin. Marcus Rashford had the same thing. So Greenwood will fill out just naturally. But obviously, maybe with the club and Rangnick's approach, maybe they will fast track that in terms of a specific training program, whether that be in the gym or recovery. Who knows? They know far more about it than me. But George, before we get into some individual performances and 3-2-1s, just the performance, because regardless of the good result against Crystal Palace, I think what pleased most people was the performance. It was good. It was attack and it was on the front foot. As Ralph Rangnick said, it was controlled both in attack and defence. I thought the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes was not as good, but a continuation. You could understand a drop-off because of the change in personnel and our so-called weaker players. You could understand it wasn't going to be as sort of free-flowing. But it did drop off after that first half hour. Do you think that was just lesser players not being as good, or it was down to what I have a feeling, just match fitness? Some of the players just tired out after that first 30 minutes of sort of high-intensity pressing. It was naturally there was going to be a drop-off.
I agree with you on that. Like I even noticed in the Palace game, First half, fantastic. Geigen pressing, closing off all the passing lanes. The second half, we were gassed, and weren't doing it as effectively. Yes, the first 20 minutes was a continuation of the Palace game, maybe not to as much as high quality, but that's what you get when it's a second team out there. But after the first 20 to 30, what I do like about our performance is that even though we weren't able to press at that same intensity, cut off all the passing lanes, we didn't just unnecessarily press and make duels and try and force something that wasn't there. We did hold compact. Young boys, while they did have most of that possession in the second half, do you really remember any clear-cut chances they had?
So, look, it's not a game I'm going to be going back and watching highlights of. From memory, they did get in a few sort of dangerous positions. Dean Henderson, wasn't forced into sort of world class saves, but he had a little bit to do. But yeah, I had the same feeling that it wasn't backs to the wall. Oh my God, what young boys are going to score at any time here? It definitely wasn't that feeling. It was a little bit not control in the way Ralph Rangnick does want, but it was a little bit more controlled there. But we'll just touch on one or two performances before we get into the 3-2-1s. And I'll just throw this name up first, George, because I have a feeling, or I can guarantee he's not going to feature in the 3-2-1s. And make sure you get your comments in the live chat and share your opinions on this guy, not just his performance, but looking forward to the future. Aaron wan-bissaka. It was not his day, George. And an interesting dynamic into this one is obviously Diogo Dalot's form. And when Ralph Rangnick came in, it was big question marks and a genuine discussion, and rightfully so. Who's going to be the right back going forward, because Diogo Dalot obviously has attributes that Aaron wan-bissaka doesn't have. I'm just thinking, before we throw Dalot into the argument, just your thoughts on wan-bissaka's performance and why it was so, I don't know what the word is, why it was so bad.
There's no hiding from the fact that wan-bissaka was poor today. On the ball, he was challenged, struggled to put together a 10-yard pass. My analogy is, I guess it was like Fred at right back. Didn't really put in a tackle, just ran around and couldn't complete a pass. But
so you could have got a gig on our supporters club game on Sunday. Some of the passing from some of our fullbacks.
Oh, it's a bit harsh on Vinny. He made a couple of tackles, made a couple of good passes. But as for wan-bissaka on the whole, yes, he's been in a bit of a rough patch of form. And does Diogo Dalot deserve the first team right back spot at the moment? Yes, based on current form. Yes, he does. But overall, my opinion on the right back debate is, when push comes to shove, it is easier to teach wan-bissaka how to play a 5-yard pass or control the ball or cross a ball than it is to actually teach Dalot how to defend. When we go on to play against, let's say, a better team, so let's say we play Chelsea again whenever that is next year, or City or Liverpool, and let's say we got Pulisic or Mo Salah, or it would be Mane on the left, or we got Grealish running at our right back. Do you feel more comfortable with Diogo Dalot or Aaron wan-bissaka? That's the conundrum that gets thrown up.
Well, that's the thing, and I made this point in regards to Solskjaer and Ralph Rangnick after his first win. I was thinking, okay, it's good to be excited, but let's just calm down in terms of there was one win against Palace, and it's what I've said in regards to wan-bissaka and Dalot, in regards to, I'm all aboard the praise of Diogo Dalot. He fully deserves that, and it's his spot to lose now. I think at the moment he deserves that first choice position in terms of not just the last couple of weeks, but wan-bissaka's season in general. I sort of understand that. However, I'm looking at it now and think Diogo Dalot's had two good performances, not great performances, two solid performances. And I'm thinking we shouldn't just be saying, okay, sell Aaron wan-bissaka now. I think, and that is sort of what I feel is happening amongst the fan base. I think everyone is going, well, Diogo Dalot's first choice now, wan-bissaka's woeful. And I'm just thinking, let's say Norwich have a left winger. It wouldn't shock you when we've seen Diogo Dalot have to defend. Very likely the winger will get the better of him, and suddenly we're going to be sitting here in two or 3 days' time saying, well, hang on, Dalot can't defend. Let's get wan-bissaka back in the team, after everyone's been telling him that he needs to be sold a couple of days earlier. So I just think heap the praise on Diogo Dalot 100%, and wan-bissaka needs criticising. However, calm it down a little bit. I think we need to just keep it slow on Diogo Dalot, because we have all seen him defend, and a couple of weeks ago we were saying he's the worst one-on-one defender at this club. Suddenly he's the answer at right back. So just your thoughts on moving forward with Dalot and wan-bissaka.
I think what works in Dalot's favour at the moment is that we do have a kind run of fixtures coming up where we are going to be playing a lot on the front foot. And given that, where minimal defending is going to be required, quote unquote, Dalot's attributes are going to be more preferred, because more often than not, we will be on the ball, we will be going forward, and to have an easy outlet for our centre backs who are going to be playing high up the field, we need a fullback who's going to be able to be comfortable on the ball and progress it forward, which is what Dalot is very good at. However, with regards to his defensive ability, I really would be interested to see what happens the next time we come up against a quality opposition. Of course, cast your mind back to the Villarreal game where Arnaud Danjuma put him on toast for 90 minutes. And to be fair to Danjuma, he did play pretty well against us when Bournemouth beat us 1-0. I'm sorry to bring that up, but once again, I would not put a line through wan-bissaka yet. As I've continuously said, the thing with wan-bissaka is the reason why I feel as though he may not have improved in his time at the club, which is a point that you and Larry have made previously, and the point has come up in the comments. Not to have this as a stick to beat Ole with, but he was never dropping plays for poor or undesirable performances. So when wan-bissaka is playing pretty much every game, and regardless of a 10 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 performance, he wasn't getting dropped. Naturally, you're not going to improve because you know that spot is guaranteed for you. You're not being pushed to. It's very unlikely. And now with that competition, he has seen that what he is expected of him, both with and without the ball. And I think that's what Ranić coming to United and Dallow's rise in form is going to provide. Almost like a Shaw and Tellers but on the other side.
It's interesting now in terms of our first choice fullbacks in Shaw and wan-bissaka. Now, in a lot of people's minds, second choice fullbacks behind Tellez and Dalot. But just a couple of comments here. Rob saying, bad day at the office for wan-bissaka. Be interested now that there's someone to challenge him for his position as a one-on-one defender. Aaron wins. But for attacking and crossing, it's Dalot all day. And Wes makes the point here, first time wan-bissaka has had pressure on him for to perform due to Dallow's form. And that's a good thing. As much as we're criticising wan-bissaka, we do have to take the positives from it and think that it is a good thing. But just this on this last point.
Mad's point, that's what I wanted to bring up. If we were a team that was as dominant on the front foot as Liverpool week in, week out, we can have a right back like that that's suspect defensively, because the reality is the amount of defending you have to do is quite minimal.
Yeah, I think that the way, in terms of looking forward and hoping and predicting how it should go under Ralph Rangnick, maybe that is why, maybe in the short term we might need to sort of suffer a little bit as we get used to the system and if Diogo Dalot is the first choice. But ultimately, if things go to plan and we develop into the team we want to be, maybe Dalot will be that right back. Fingers crossed. So I do like he obviously does add a lot to the team in terms of going forward. But it will be interesting. Obviously, we're playing one of the other Man United, actually, well, he'll be not cup-tied, but I assume he won't be eligible to play in Brendan Williams, another fullback or Man United fullback this week, who I think he has been playing quite well, not well, but he's been an important player in the last couple of weeks for Norwich, I think, from all reports. But I don't think Brendan Williams does have a future at Man United, unfortunately. I do like him, but just one of those things. Now, next one, before we get into, actually not even 3-2-1s, just two more players. Eric Bailly. I think a lot of people will have him as their 3 points, and look, I'm not going to argue. I don't think anyone really stands out as 3 points this week. However, I'm not sold on it. I thought, yes, when you watch the individual battles, the duels, the tackling, the defending, the last-ditch headers, the clearances, which he's there to do. Fantastic. I thought he did all that very well. You can't fault him for that. Did his job 100%. Credit to him, and did it very well. I thought so much of our play was disjointed because of Eric Bailly. The amount of time we sit here as fans, we know Nemanja Matic is left-footed. We know Aaron Wan-Bissaka is right-footed. So many times Eric Bailly had the ball and he's passed to Aaron Wan-Bissaka's left foot. So many times he had the ball and he passes to Nemanja Matic's right foot. Just think these little things slow the play down. So many times Juan Mata and Donny van der Beek got into a position where they could see the player, they could see Eric Bailly on the ball, and they could see their next pass. They were open. They're screaming for the ball off Bailly. Bailly stops, rolls the ball under his studs, does a little turn. Suddenly the midfielder is closed. Eric Bailly then puts the ball into midfield to Juan Mata. Juan Mata loses the ball, and it looks like Juan Mata's mistake. And you think, well, hang on, if the ball came 5 seconds earlier, it would have been a little bit easier, and sort of the pitcher was in the mind for midfield. So ultimately, in the engaged moments of defending, Eric Bailly looked very good and did his job well. But I just think going forward, some of the slow passages of play were down. And maybe part of it was obviously a very sort of unique central defense partnership in regards to Bailly and Matic. We've never seen that before. So you have to allow him a little bit of leeway, and like with other players, not entirely match fit. But I thought going forward, it was a bit of a concern for United. But just how do you rate his performance?
I thought it was pretty solid, to be honest. I'm a bit old-fashioned in the sense that regardless of whether it's a centre-back or a full-back, a defender's first job is to defend, and he did that quite well. As with regards to how he is on the ball, though, I do think it is a bit more important for a centre back than it is for the fullbacks because when progressing the ball into midfield, if that ball is given away and the ball is lost and turned over, that can often result in a very clear-cut chance or a goal. And ultimately, we saw that happen just before half time. But as for his footballing intelligence, we all know he doesn't have much of it. We've seen him last year doing a bicycle kick in his own box twice, or doing a Cruyff turn against Chelsea, which luckily came off. But
Yeah,
with regard,
I think for me, after seeing that performance, I just think, yeah, good in moments, but I think ultimately I see a fourth choice centre back there. And that's not to be too harsh on him, but I didn't see anything there that says, okay, he should be playing ahead of Varane, Lindelof, or Maguire now. Now you can maybe put him over Maguire in form, but ultimately, can you put your money on Eric Bailly being fit for Sunday? Like, there's a very good chance he's going to be injured. Now, hopefully not. Hopefully he does stay fit because you do need numbers, especially coming into this part of the season. But I don't see a manager, and the evidence that we have at the moment, he wasn't sort of trusted by Rangnick in that first game against Crystal Palace. The evidence we have from previous managers is they will favour other centre backs over Eric Bailly. So for me, I see a performance that some people get excited about, but for me, I see he probably did a good job as a fourth choice centre back. Come in and do a very good job, which he did today. Ultimately, could have been better in my opinion, but I think maybe the reason I'm so not frustrated, but so passionate about this one, I think a lot of people will have him as 3 points, and I don't think I could bring myself to agree with that.
I personally don't have him as my 3 points, but I do think he's within a shout for 1 point, in my opinion.
No, definitely. In terms of the way the game panned out, I have to give him points. I think he ultimately was good. As you say, he's a defender. He had to defend. Fair play to him. I just think going forward, I think, he let us down a little bit. But one person, before we get into the 3-2-1s, who we have to talk about because I've been calling for him to play for about 6 years, Juan Mata got a run. And I think a lot of us did predict Juan Mata would come into the team. I don't think anyone predicted him to come into a two-man midfield or even the number 6 at times. I just want your thoughts on the performance because a lot of people saying he's woeful. That's why we shouldn't be playing him. He should have been sold or should have left the club type thing. Look, I understand the frustrations and everything, but I think at the end of the day, we do have to be realistic and consider things. He hasn't played since, I know he came on against Villarreal, but he walked on the field and walked off. He hasn't played since West Ham in the League Cup. I think that was his first game since Wolves last season. So that was his first game since May. The guy just simply has not played. And then you throw him into a Champions League game in a two-man midfield where he has never played that before in his whole career. And I know we've spoken about maybe he does suit a midfield role. I don't think we've ever talked about a midfield 2 and sort of sitting a little bit deeper almost as a number 6. I think we sort of talk about a more advanced 8 role type thing with protection in behind him. So to come into a completely new role, completely match fit with players who aren't sort of familiar with him in terms of that style, I think it was always going to be a little bit of a hard game for Juan Mata. And ultimately, while, he didn't set the world on fire, I wouldn't call him bad, I wouldn't call him good. I think it was just sort of a standard performance. I think a lot of our best attacking play or best attacking moments came off the back of his passes. Now, that's not to say he had a great performance, but I just think it was just one of those. The way I read it was good. He came in, gave Fred and McTominay rest. Good use of the squad, in my opinion. That's why I'd view that sort of appearance by Mata.
I agree with that in saying that I do believe he was rusty. If I had to rate Mata's performance out of 10, it's probably 5.5 or a 6 because for someone who is so fantastic on the ball, he did have an abnormally large amount of misplaced passes. But that for me comes with a lack of match fitness. And that he's not the only one that was out there you could say that about. With regards to whether he should still be at the club or not, in my opinion, if he's going to be used that sporadically, probably not. But he's been a loyal servant of the club. I'm very happy with how he's played for the club 9 times out of 10 when he has played. So it's one of those things that if the player wants to stay there, I'm more than happy to accommodate him because he is one player that is very unique in our squad and we don't really have anyone like him. And as you say, he's won everything in the game except the league title. And players with that mentality are much needed in the dressing room.
Yeah, no, a few people here. I'd put his rust performance, and Matt saying here, down to rust as well. And I think the one thing you do call from Juan Mata or see from him is his pass accuracy and how careful he is. And that's probably one thing that did let him down today. There was a few sloppy passes, and you just had to put that down to, or he did some class passes, agree. But he was rusty, but you hope now, or my hope for him, obviously, because I'm a big fan, you hope it's not 6 months before his next appearance. You hope maybe a game around Boxing Day, he's in and around the sort of match day squad again type thing. We do need to sort of keep him in the loop. You just can't play a player for the first time in weeks and expect a good performance. You do need to give them minutes throughout the calendar, so they're ready to hit the ground running. But George, that time of the episode, and make sure you get your live or your comments down in the live chat for 3-2-1s, because we're going to need some serious help with this one. 3-2-1s, where to start? I just saw one comment here to get the ball rolling just from Justin before other people get theirs in. 3 points for Greenwood, can't go past that goal. 2 for Ahmad and 1 for Eric Bailly. I thought Ahmad was a weird one. I thought he was quite poor, but he was an outlet. He almost looked really threatening. But again, his first game in what feels like a year type thing. Like it was really sort of hard to expect too much from him. But 3 points were a weird one. Where do you want to start? I think I agree with Justin. For me, with the goal, it would probably be Mason Greenwood for me. I thought he did play well. He was a threat. He looked the most, and it sounds stupid because he was the most experienced attacker on the field. When you call Anthony Elanga and Ahmad and players like that, I thought he did show experience compared to those players. And ultimately with the goal did well. And just your thoughts on Greenwood and / the 3 points.
I thought Greenwood, given his role in the team today as a, let's call him a target man, and even running off Elanga to some extent, he did both roles really well. Brilliant finish for the goal, it must be said. If that was in a more important game, we'd be talking about it. But personally, is he my 3 points? No, he's not. He would be my 2 points, Mason Greenwood. For 3 points, I would actually have given it to Matic. Given the circumstances, playing in an unfamiliar role, I actually thought him and Eric Bailly complemented each other very well. You talk about the importance of progression of the ball from the back into midfield. Matic and Van der Beek worked very well together in that respect. And defensively, Matic is really solid as well. Apart from his one brain explosion where he's kicking the ball up to himself 10 metres in the air and trying to head it back. he was actually very good.
Eric Bailly was rubbing off on him there. But Matic is an interesting shout because at first 60 minutes, I would have agreed. But then I think that last half hour, he became not a problem. But you saw that one was 2 times where obviously he did juggle the ball to himself. There was another time where he just fell over the ball, which was very reminiscent of some of our players in our charity game on Sunday, just standing there and sort of tripping over the ball. And I thought Nemanja Matic on another day really would have cost us, but I couldn't agree with that for 3 points for Matic. I think
I'm happy to give it to Greenwood.
Awesome comments here. Rob saying 3 for a Mason goal. Yeah, the goal was important for me, and I thought the goal would open up the floodgates, but didn't eventuate. And Matt doesn't agree with the Nemanja Matic shout.
Neither does Rob or Vin to that extent.
I think he gets some hate on this one, George. Matic was behind Aaron Wan-Bissaka for worst today. No one challenges Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I thought that was his worst, is playing a red shirt. But Vin, good to see you, man. Matic was bad. So I think everyone's maybe a little bit harsh in the comments, George. I'll definitely not have him to the 3 points, but I think he was good today. But I think he was good at that first hour, that last half hour, in terms of the frustration of being under the pump and defending and not being able to go get that goal. I think that last half hour stands out in the minds of fans, thinking it wasn't really good from Matic. But ultimately, as you say, which I said with Juan Mata, he's coming into an unfamiliar position for the first time in a while with at the end of the day, a very unreliable centre-back partner in Eric Bailly. For me, Mason Greenwood 3 points. I want to be stuck there. A lot of people have put that in the discussion for 3 points. We'll go with Mason Greenwood. Give me your thoughts. I might consider Nemanja Matic for 1 point, as you're the guest, but 2 points. As much as I've just criticised him, Eric Bailly, I thought defended well. I think in another situation, if those balls come into the box and it's Nemanja Matic in that situation where Eric Bailly found himself in, I think the striker might get the nod and they might score a few goals. So I'm willing to maybe consider Eric Bailly. But a few people have sort of put in a shout for Amad Diallo.
Personally, I actually reckon Ahmad was the one that was quite poor today. Once again, not entirely his fault. It was his first game all season, and first game that he's probably played for us since the Wolves game at the end. And
he's a shout, Luke Shaw.
That's the one I wanted to bring up. Sure, I thought had he played more than, I reckon would have been in contention for my 1 point, considering he only played an hour. But that hour was actually quite solid, both with and without the ball, and a good cross for Greenwood.
I think that's what I can give. I'm giving the cross. Other than that, I'm not sure, solid enough. For me, like on the right-hand side, I think Tellez has now, Delo's taken the right-hand spot. And for me, I think Tellez is first choice on the left-hand side now, but ultimately he did get that assist. And Rob, I need some help. He's saying we're clutching tonight. Usually we're clutching after like a 5-0 loss to Liverpool or 2-0 to City type thing. It's not usually after drawing the Champions League. We're really clutching for 3-2-1s, but we are struggling. And I don't know. Do you want to throw a name forward? Okay, we've got Greenwood with 3 points. I'm thinking the names there. Actually, I'll throw a shout. I'm not saying he's worthy of points. This is how much we are clutching at straws. Dean Henderson, a few not big saves, but
Really?
no, I don't know. I'm clutching at straws, but there's a few. I remember shots that came in with a little bit of pepper on them. He had to get his body behind. Definitely not worthy of points, but as we're saying, we are struggling.
Oh, I'm mad. A bit harsh on Van der Beek. I thought, apart from the goal, I thought it was quite positive.
Actually, yeah, well, that's the thing. Van der Beek, we haven't really discussed him. I thought, considering his role as well, a two-man midfield with Juan Mata, who's not the ideal partner to have in there, he got through a lot of work. Ultimately, you take away that assist for the young boys' goal, I think we're having a far different discussion about Van der Beek's performance.
Yeah, for sure. Like what he did that was so effective is he was almost playing as the most defensive-minded player out of the four centre midfielders that we had. He was very good at progressing the ball and got it forward straight away with a ridiculously accurate or high pass accuracy, I should say. Completed more tackles and more passes than anyone else on the pitch. So he was putting himself about. He progressed the ball quite well and broke up play very well. And what more can you ask from a centre midfielder?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the comments were.
Apart from that one mistake, I thought it was
no,
quite good.
that happens on another day. That guy shoots wide or hits the post, and we're not talking about that mistake. Ultimately, the mistake does prove costly, but it's a hard one. But the chat's all over the place in regards to 3 points and 2 points, and I have no idea. As you're the guest, I've pulled rank and said Mason Greenwood for 3 points. Now, don't upset the chat too much, but I'll give you the honours of doing 2 points and 1 point. If you're feeling brave enough to throw Matic in there, feel free. You can feel the wrath of the comments, but Greenwood for 3 points and 2 and 1.
I think based on how the game panned out, I'm happy with Bailly for 2 points because once again we were defending non-stop. We were defending non-stop, and towards that back end. And as for 1 point, like with the players for me that are left over, yes, I am going to cop hate in the comments. For me, that what stood out about Matic was that first 45 where we looked very composed, bring the ball out of the back. He was defensively solid. Apart from that, dribbling the ball up and down, or juggling in his own half and almost, putting it on a platter for a counter attack and the struggle defensively.
You have to excuse him. If you're playing next to Eric Bay for 90 minutes, there's going to have to come a time where you get the ball and you're just going to try and match him with the juggle.
The other players I would have thrown up for that 1 point are Shaw, if you haven't given him points already, which I don't believe we have. Van der Beek, apart from his one mistake, I thought was very good. And yeah, that would be my 3 players in contention for 1 point.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, I'll give the Bay for 2 points. And for me, I think considering the job he had to do, I'll maybe go with Donny van der Beek for 1 point. It was a tough job.
I'm definitely happy with that because, as I said earlier, he did complete the most passes, made the most tackles, and did so with a very good accuracy. And as the most defensive-minded player in that midfield, he did everything.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, yeah, we finally got to the end of that. It was a little bit of a challenge, but definitely an enjoyable one. But it was great to see everyone in the chat getting their 3-2-1s in. It made no sense to me. I'm seeing points for Lingard, wan-bissaka type thing. It is all over the shop. I do appreciate the interaction. Wayne here from Cape Town in South Africa. It's a great show, gentlemen. Appreciate the support, Wayne. Hope you're keeping well. Now, that was obviously the 3-2-1s. Remind me when we go off air to write those down because I'll always forget who we did award the points to. But just quickly to touch on as we wrap up the debuts. Obviously, we touched on Tom Heaton getting his debut. Didn't feel like one, but at the end of the day, it was a debut for old Tom Heaton. But 2-1s. We'll touch on Charlie Savage first. Obviously, a lot of people, maybe before your time, in terms of catching the tail end of Robbie Savage's career at the sort of various clubs he went to. But obviously, a lot of people do forget he was a member of the class of '92. Robbie Savage had a sort of very good youth career, and I was on the verge of making a first team appearance, but he never quite got there for Man United under Sir Alex Ferguson. Never quite got onto the bench, but he sort of let the cat out of the hat a little bit earlier in the day yesterday, putting a tweet out saying this is the proudest day of my life type thing, which everyone knew. Okay, that meant Charlie Savage because he'd been put on the UEFA B list. Okay, Charlie Savage was going to be on the bench. And ultimately, he was on the bench and ultimately came on. But what made it so good, I don't know if you watched it, George, but did see the interview before the match. Robbie Savage was interviewed, I think, by a Rio Ferdinand type thing. He was commentating for BT Sport. So not only did he get to watch Charlie's debut, but his father was actually commentating on the game. So did you see that interview with Robbie Savage? And ultimately, just your thoughts on him coming on in front of his dad?
Yeah, I did actually see that. It was very heartwarming as a United fan to see that. As for as for Charlie Savage in general, same thing with Zidane Iqbal. Yes, both very young, promising players, as pointed out by Matt in the comments. But ultimately, I do see Garner and Levitt as if there are going to be any potential successes in that area. That's who it will be. Both are obviously on loan at the moment.
Actually, that is my one shout. Looking for, not that we sort of made these predictions yet, but if I'm going to put out a shout in terms of when we're talking about January transfer windows, I'm not sure what the legalities of his contract situation is with his loan, but my one shout out of the box would be James Garner to return from loan. If Ralph Rangnick does want to bring in a number 6 and can't quite get one in the transfer market, I would not be shocked if James Garner returns. Now, I'm not sure if that's possible. I'm not sure what the details of his situation is on loan, but I think that would be interesting to see. But you mentioned the other name there, and Zidane Iqbal. It's an interesting one because obviously a very proud moment, just as Charlie Savage, but it's an interesting one with him because he becomes only a handful of players across the Premier League, but obviously Man United's first ever British Asian player to represent the club, and obviously a huge milestone for him and sort of that community.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice when you see someone that is the first of a particular group to do something. So fair play to him. I'm sure he's put himself in high regards across the board in many aspects of his community and the wider football community. And both, I guess, in terms of how they played, didn't really have a chance to do too much, but a couple of nice touches and held safe.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think you can read anything into a performance like that. You just have to appreciate the moment for what it is in terms of coming on the field. And Ian here saying, "Yeah, love Robbie Savage." I think Robbie Savage he got a hard run at the end of his career in terms of the type of play he was and sort of the way the media and sort of opposition fans did treat him. But if you just go back and look at a career of a footballer and a professional footballer, Robbie Savage had a great career. Okay, he didn't reach the heights of winning trophies or getting on the bench or making appearances for Man United, but he went and had a very good career. And yeah, I think everyone does have a lot of respect for Robbie Savage, especially around Man United.
I can see a bit of a midfield debate occurring in the comments between Matt and Ian.
I'll just read this one out. I've been following it, but it's Matt here saying, Fred and Scott bust their asses every game, leave nothing in the tank, a misplaced pass here. A misplaced pass here and there doesn't faze me. Bruno misplaces the majority of his passes, but no one bats an eye. And the reason no one bats an eye, well, maybe they are bad in the eyes now, but after all these misplaced passes, he does end up putting one in the top corner, which does make all forgiven. But when he doesn't put those in the top corner, that is when those passes do become
I feel like
more
just
frustrating.
I know it's a bit off topic, but just quickly with Bruno, it's one of those things that the way he plays, he's either going to be an 8 to 9 or 10 out of 10 or a 1 to 2 out of 10 and nothing in between, because that's just the nature of the way that he plays. When it comes off, great. If not, we have to back our defense to be able to defend it, and otherwise, unfortunately, this year just hasn't been the case, which is why it's been highlighted a bit more. And as for Vin's comment, people lost their shit when Lingard assisted for young boys in the first game. No mention about Van der Beek. My response to that would be Lingard came on, didn't really do much in that game. His one contribution was the assist. Van der Beek today...
That's a bad mistake by Lingard. I remember that was a bad one.
Van der Beek today was... Yes, he's at fault for the goal, but he was given the ball, as you were talking about, by Bailly, at a situation where he'd taken so much time on the ball that Van der Beek was created under pressure. Not excusing Van der Beek's touch.
If that falls to Van der Beek...
And Van der Beek, on the whole, his performance, he was arguably in contention for 3 points, were it not for that mistake.
Yeah, I think ultimately looking back, as I'll say that falls to Van der Beek in an attacking situation, or Bruno Fernandes, or let's say Fred, even on Fred's right foot, and they put that in the top corner. We're not talking about the opposition giving us the ball. We're talking about the fantastic strike. Sometimes you take your hat off and say it was a cracking strike by, even if De Gea was in goals, I don't think he's going to save it. So
that was a very good strike from Raider. Fair play to him.
Yeah, no, I have to give credit to them. And look, we are Man United. We do what we want. We've given young boys 4 points in this group. We've sacked a manager, and we've still topped the group with a game to go. So, interesting situation how this Champions League is sort of unfolded. And we'll wrap up, and obviously we will touch on the Champions League.
Just a big congratulations to young boys. It's actually their most ever points in a Champions League group stage, and they got them all against us.
Well, that's a fair point, good statistic. But I think fair play. I think they did play well in both games against us, and obviously they did get a draw against Atalanta last time out. So they have done well. You have to give them credit. Fair play to them. But obviously we'll touch on the Champions League draw. Obviously we'll back to it when it ever happens. I think it might be next week sometime. But are you just assumed we've got PSG, or is there anything else? Or just do you do you take anything out of that in terms of we're not going to sit here and accuse UEFA of corruption, but at the end of the day, they have been found guilty of these things before. And I'm just thinking, it's just coincidence, or do you feel we're going to get someone else?
Oh, I would not be surprised if it's PSG at all. I know UEFA do love a glamour tie, as we can see with their international qualifiers, where arguably Italy and Portugal were the two best teams going through the qualifiers, and they happen to be in the same pairing as each other. They do love a glamour tie, whether it's rigged or not, who knows? But a Ronaldo versus Messi, I'm actually up for it. I think should we draw PSG? Oh, what a story it would be if we beat them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. The way I saw, and look, PSG are better than us. If we get drawn against them, they're going to start favourites. However, the way I saw them play against Manchester City, if Ralph Rangnick, by the time February, which when these fixtures happen, if Ralph Rangnick gets going, now obviously Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe will be motivated by the Champions League. But the way they played against, they don't like running. And if we have 11 players running their asses into the ground, I fancy us against PSG. But that's an interesting one. But yeah, a few people mentioned in Barcelona back down in the Europa League. I think more needs to be made of that. But also, there's these few things that are confirmed. We know we're going to get PSG. We know Manchester City are going to get Swindon Town or Colchester. That's the way it happens. But anything else before we wrap up? We might have a preview tomorrow night. Me and Larry should be back on, maybe previewing the Norwich game. So starting 11 predictions and everything as well. But yeah, last thoughts, George?
Loving all the Barcelona banter in the chat. Absolutely no sympathy from me about the shit that they're going through right now. We both had to sit through the 2009 and 11 Champions League finals, where we were absolutely, well, maybe not so much 2009, but 2011, we were played off the park by arguably the best team in world football. So to see how the Tides can turn, it brings me great satisfaction.
No, their time has definitely come. Definitely. Just yeah, Rob saying here, good show, lads. Good to see you on again, George. Yeah, definitely good to have you back on.
Also,
George,
with regards to Rob, as earlier, he will be on at 8:30 tonight on the IFT podcast.
Yep,
definitely
Yeah, I'm going to be tuning in just to give my 2 cents about buying Barcelona. Sorry, because I don't think enough is made of that. Could you imagine if United went into the Europa League as we did last year in terms of the outfall, the outcry, the drama that sort of unfolded? I think the same needs to be done against Barcelona. Messi.
I just think the only thing that could top it is with how poor that they're going in La Liga. I don't want them to miss out on Europe entirely, but I want them in that Conference League. That would make my season, regardless of what happens with United.
Europa Conference League final, Barcelona versus Arsenal.
Glamour tie. European glamour tie. Rematch of the 06 Champions League final.
Definitely. But
Arsenal's best European trophy.
Yeah, they haven't got it. But hopefully everyone did enjoy the video and the match review. Obviously not the most sort of eventful game, but as I said, a few talking points which were sort of important to go through, and obviously stirred up many different opinions, whether 3-2-1s or even performances that didn't make the 3-2-1s. Stirred a lot of opinion tonight, which was very good. Appreciate everyone in the live chat. Make sure you do leave a like on the video if you haven't already, and if you are new, it'd be great if you could subscribe. We're just past 300, so it's good to keep that little ticker going. But George, a pleasure as always. And as I said, Larry and I most likely will be back on tomorrow previewing the Norwich game, because as I said, I think our fullback situation has changed now. I think our second choice fullbacks are now our first choice, and that adds a very interesting dynamic into how we're going to play football. So roll on Sunday. I think it was a Saturday night game, George. I think it's 4:30 Sunday morning.
Sunday morning at 4:00, yeah, or 4:30.
Lovely as always. But we'll be up, no doubt. But yeah, tune in tomorrow night. We'll see you then. Hope everyone has a good night. Ciao.